The 8 most hilariously drunk celebrities ever on Johnny Carson's set. For 30 years, Johnny Carson wasn't just a late-night host, he was a cultural institution. Every evening, Americans tuned in to watch the masterful blend of charm, timing, and wit that made The Tonight Show a nightly ritual. But behind the perfectly staged sets, the laughter and the scripted jokes, there was a volatile undercurrent. Celebrities who showed up having indulged a little, or sometimes a lot, before the cameras started rolling. In an era long before social media could immortalize missteps in an instant or publicists micromanaged every word, stars had freedom, and sometimes recklessness. They arrived at NBC's Burbank studios 3 sheets to the wind, turning what should have been a standard interview into moments of live television, both hilarious and horrifying. Today, we count down 8 of the most notoriously intoxicated guests ever to grace Johnny Carson's legendary couch. These weren't merely awkward moments, they were live performances teetering on disaster. And the unshakable Carson? He navigated them with a mix of grace, patience, and occasional visible exasperation that cemented his legacy as a master of live television. So pour yourself a drink, but probably not as potent as the one these celebrities had, and join us as we explore the chaotic, unforgettable, and sometimes jaw-dropping inebriated visits to The Tonight Show. 1. Truman Capote, the literary genius who couldn't form a sentence. When Truman Capote appeared on The Tonight Show in 1980, it quickly became clear that the literary titan behind In Cold Blood and Breakfast at Tiffany's had indulged a bit too much before taking the stage. Known for his razor-sharp wit and incisive observations, Capote seemed completely unable to navigate the short walk from the curtain to the guest chair without staggering. From Carson's opening greeting of, "It's great to have you with us tonight," Capote responded with a nearly indecipherable mumble. Carson leaned forward, forcing a polite, "I'm sorry, what was that?" and the audience tensed. Over the next 17 minutes, Capote slurred nearly every word, launching into rambling anecdotes that veered from topic to topic with little sense of beginning, middle, or end. One particularly surreal moment came when he turned to Ed McMahon and asked to sit on his lap, remarking, "You look so comfortable like a teddy bear." McMahon's stunned expression became an iconic image in Tonight Show history. Carson, in his trademark style, attempted to guide Capote back on track, asking pointed questions about his writing process and influences. But Capote ignored all cues, losing himself in bizarre, meandering stories, including one about Montgomery Clift that seemed entirely disconnected from reality. The final straw came when Capote tried to sip water and missed entirely, dribbling it down his chest, creating a visible wet patch on national television. Eventually, Carson signaled for an early commercial break, a rare intervention, and the show cut away with a glimpse of his exhausted relief. Backstage, he reportedly told his producer, "That wasn't an interview, that was a hostage situation in slow motion." Capote never returned to Carson's couch, a dramatic end to a brilliant but increasingly troubled career. 2. Shelley Winters, the hurricane in human form. If Johnny Carson had an unofficial chart ranking his most challenging guests, Shelley Winters would have consistently landed near the top. The 2-time Academy Award winner, celebrated for her intense performances on screen, brought an entirely different kind of drama to The Tonight Show. The drama fueled by pre-show cocktails and an indifference to conventional interview etiquette. Winters' drinking was so habitual that NBC staff implemented a standard protocol. She would be scheduled second or third on the lineup, allowing her to sober up backstage, but the strategy rarely worked. One notorious 1974 appearance saw her arriving unsteady in heels, immediately launching into a story unrelated to her autobiography, talking over Carson repeatedly, and addressing the audience as if he weren't even there. When another guest, a young actor, joined the couch, Winters didn't allow Carson to conduct the interview. She placed her hand on the actor's knee, interrupted his answers, and proclaimed, "His movie isn't very good, but he's pretty to look at." The audience gasped, and Carson's jaw visibly tightened. At one point, Winters grabbed his note cards mid-interview, tossing them across the stage with a triumphant, "You won't be needing these, Johnny. I'm much more interesting." The segment concluded with another early commercial break, and Winters was blacklisted from the show for nearly 3 years, a remarkable decision for an actress of her stature. When she eventually returned in 1977, it was under strict conditions, earlier taping times, and an understanding that any misbehavior would result in a permanent ban. Winters' appearances were memorable not just for drunkenness, but for her complete takeover of the set, turning Carson's carefully orchestrated stage into her own dramatic arena. 3. Dean Martin, when the act became reality. Dean Martin's public persona revolved around the carefully cultivated image of a charming, slightly tipsy entertainer. The martini in hand, the loose tie, the gentle sway, all elements of a long-running act that had endeared him to audiences worldwide. Carson often played along, teasing Martin with questions like, "How much have you had to drink tonight, Dean?" By the mid-1970s, however, Martin's performances shifted from act to reality. A 1976 appearance demonstrated this painful transition. Martin stumbled to the guest chair, slurred his responses, and displayed genuine confusion. When Carson asked about an NBC special he was promoting, Martin replied, "What special? Oh, I thought I was here to talk to MV." He even asked repeatedly what time it was, barely 2 minutes into the interview. For 7 excruciating minutes, Carson attempted to guide Martin through basic conversation. The singer began singing "Everybody Loves Somebody" unprompted, forgot where he was, and asked about guests who weren't booked. The interview ended with a rare early commercial break, and Carson was visibly shaken backstage. Martin had made drinking look classy, until it didn't. The incident marked a turning point, and Martin's appearances became less frequent as the delicate balance between public charm and private struggle tipped irreparably. 4. Raymond Burr, Perry Mason's shocking fall. Raymond Burr, the impenetrable Perry Mason, epitomized competence and authority. So when he appeared on The Tonight Show in 1970, visibly intoxicated, the contrast was jarring. Arriving 40 minutes late, disheveled and flushed, Burr staggered to the guest chair, gripping it for stability. Carson attempted gentle conversation, asking about Burr's career. Burr responded with a 10-minute monologue on orchid cultivation, drifting further into slurred tangents. When Carson pressed him about Perry Mason, Burr paused, blinking, and asked, "What did you say your name was again?" A stunning lapse that left the audience silent. Carson's quick-witted recovery, "Johnny Carson, pleasure to meet you, Mr. Burr," remains a masterclass in live television damage control. Burr never returned to the show, and his appearance prompted new pre-interview protocols to prevent similar incident. 5. Orson Welles, genius in haze. Orson Welles represented a unique challenge, a mind of unmatched intellect, capable of elevating late-night conversation to high art. Yet when Welles arrived inebriated in 1975, the effect was simultaneously impressive and alarming. After reportedly drinking multiple bottles of wine, he launched immediately into a monologue on Shakespeare's problem plays, occasionally slurring but never losing the complex thread of his argument. For 14 minutes, Carson mostly allowed Welles to speak, only intervening when necessary. At one point, Welles attempted to quote King Lear but couldn't recall the lines, improvising his own Shakespearean-esque dialogue on the spot. Carson's rare visible exhaustion at the end, followed by his remark, "The genius was there, the sobriety wasn't," encapsulates the delicate balance he maintained, letting brilliance shine while keeping chaos contained. 6. Zsa Zsa Gabor, vodka and diamonds on display. Zsa Zsa Gabor was a Tonight Show favorite for her flirtatious banter and glamorous persona. But one appearance in 1973 escalated into a chaotic display of drunken antics. From the moment she stepped on stage unsteady in stilettos, her accent thickened, responses meandered, and flirtation with Carson became increasingly physical. At one point, she kissed Carson on the mouth instead of the cheek, placed her hand on his knee, and made suggestive comments about his bedroom. all on live television. The segment ended after a near fall, with Carson physically assisting her off stage. Gabor's drunken appearance amplified her persona, bold, flirtatious, and unrestrained, earning her both the audience's delight and NBC staff's consternation. 7. Oliver Reed, too wild even for Carson. Oliver Reed, the British actor known for films like Oliver and Women in Love, earned a legendary reputation for drinking and unpredictability. So notorious was his behavior that he never actually made it onto Carson's couch. Scheduled in 1973 to promote The Three Musketeers, reports of his intoxicated antics on other talk shows led NBC to cancel his appearance. From gymnastics on The Parkinson Show to pouring whiskey into potted plants, Reed had become a liability. Carson's decision to cancel was unprecedented, a rare moment where even his tolerance for chaos had limits. Reed's non-appearance underscores the boundary of what live television could safely accommodate, even in an era tolerant of inebriated celebrity antics. 8. Peter O'Toole, the eloquent inebriate. Peter O'Toole, the 7-time Oscar nominee and star of Lawrence of Arabia, brought Shakespearean eloquence to inebriation. On his 1978 Tonight Show visit, he arrived after a long afternoon of drinking but remained articulate. He launched into tangential, highly detailed analyses of acting and classical theater, sometimes drifting into anecdotes before snapping back with razor-sharp wit. The segment's highlight came when O'Toole commandeered Carson's pen as a fencing foil, instructing the host in proper stance for nearly 3 minutes. What began as a standard interview transformed into an impromptu, entertaining, and surprisingly informative spectacle, with O'Toole maintaining charm even at his most inebriated. He remained a welcome guest throughout Carson's tenure, earning the title of the most eloquent drunk in television history. Johnny Carson's genius wasn't just in his comedic timing or charm. It was in his ability to navigate the unpredictable, the chaotic, and the intoxicated. From Truman Capote's incoherence to Peter O'Toole's theatrical improvisation, these Tonight Show moments remind us of a bygone era of live television. One where mistakes were broadcast in real time, celebrities were human, and the host's skill was measured not just in laughs, but in grace under pressure. These 8 appearances remain legendary, teaching us that sometimes brilliance and chaos exist side by side, and that a masterful host can make magic out of near disaster. Which of these inebriated legends would you have loved or feared to watch live? Comment below with your pick, and don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes Golden Age Hollywood stories.